Okay, good afternoon, learners. We are back with some quick math. Today we are looking at some reduction formula. So we will deal with the questions that are up on the screen right now. I think I'm going to do this video in two parts. So the first part is just going to be some introductory things that you need, the tools required in order to solve these questions. All right. So we will look at these questions. But before we can even get into it, there's some things that we need to know. So we'll cover that in the first video. Second part of the video, I think I'll answer some of our questions up there. Right. So in order to deal with any of these, we need to start with our cost diagram. Right. So let's get our cost diagram there. We are going to make a Cartesian plane. We're going to make a nice Cartesian plane for ourselves. We have four quadrants over there, and we are creating a cost diagram. Cost, C-A-S-T. So we're going to put a nice C here, we're going to put a here, we're going to put a S here, and we're going to put a T there. And what those mean is that within my first quadrant, this one over here is my first quadrant, within that first quadrant, all right, within my first quadrant, all of my functions, sine, cos, and tan, all of them are going to be positive over there. Within my second quadrant, this is my second quadrant. Within my second quadrant, sine is going to be positive. Okay, this over here is my second quadrant. Sine will be positive over there. Tan and cos, negative. Okay, third quadrant. So this over here would be our third quadrant. And yes, you guessed it, right? Tan is going to be positive in that quadrant, sine, cos, negative. And then lastly, our fourth quadrant, which is over there. This is our fourth quadrant. Sine, tan, negative. Cos is going to be positive. So that's the first thing we need to know. Our cost diagram tells us which functions are positive and which functions are negative in which quadrants. Okay, let's maybe get rid of some of these things. Okay. So we know which quadrants we have, and we know what is positive and what is negative there. Okay, another thing that we will probably need as we delve into this question is to know that over here is 0 degrees, right? That's our positive x-axis. On your positive x-axis, we have 0 degrees. On top over here, we have a 90 degree. Over here, we have 180 degrees, and at the bottom we have 270 degrees, and here back where we have the 0, we also have 360 degrees. Okay, what do all of these things mean? This means if I look from my positive x-axis, and we always move from the positive x-axis up to our line. If I move from the positive x-axis anti-clockwise to my line, it is going to be from there to there, and the angle that I've covered is 90 degrees. That's why there's a 90 on top there. From our positive x-axis all the way to this line over here, I have covered 180 degrees. That's why we have the 180 over there. And from the positive x-axis to this line, we've covered 270 there. That's why the 270 is at the bottom. And from the positive x-axis all the way around back to where we started, we have covered 360 degrees. So that's why we have our 360 there along with the 0. Okay, so we have 0 degrees and 360 over here, 90 degrees there, 180 there, and 270. Okay, some more things to mention. So when we have let's start with the 180. Let's go with 180, and you have 180 minus. So 180 minus, we always think of theta as an acute angle, acute smaller than 90. So if I say 180 minus a certain acute angle, let's maybe even say 20, 180 minus 20, that's going to be 160. 180 minus acute angle, so 160, which quadrant will that put me in? So if we said we measure from the positive x-axis anti-clockwise to our line, if I need to go 160 degrees, it will probably be from there up until somewhere over there. So maybe that angle over there is 160. So when we say 180 minus, it puts us in our second quadrant. Okay, let's get rid of some of these things. So this quadrant over here, 180 degrees minus a certain acute angle. Let's go with alpha today. So 180 minus alpha, where alpha is acute, puts me into that quadrant. Okay, if we think 180 plus a certain acute angle, so let's get rid of this over here. So we'll say 180 plus alpha, where alpha is acute, so maybe it's 20. Okay, so that's going to be 200. So from a positive x-axis, to a line that's going to give us a 200 angle will be somewhere over there. So if we say 180 plus, we are putting ourselves into our third quadrant. All right, so over here, this is 180 degrees plus a certain acute angle. Let's go with alpha today. All right, so 180 minus puts us in the second, 180 plus puts us in the third. All right, then if we look at 360 degrees, so let's clear some space for us. If we look at 360, if I say 360 minus a certain acute angle, let's go with 30. So 360 minus the 30 is 330. If I measure from my positive x-axis, anti-clockwise 330 degrees, I'll probably end up with something over there. So 360 minus a certain acute angle puts me in my fourth quadrant. Okay, so this over here is 360 minus, let's go with alpha. Okay, so 360 minus puts me over there. And if I have 360 plus a certain acute angle, so let's say 360 plus 40, that's going to be 400. Okay, so where would we end up if we go 400 degrees from the positive x-axis anti-clockwise? We'll start over here and go all the way back into our first quadrant. So our line would be somewhere over there. So if we're thinking 360 plus, it puts us into our first quadrant, 360 degrees plus our certain acute angle. Today we're going with alpha. So that puts me into this quadrant over here, my first quadrant. All right, so what have we seen now? 180 minus second quadrant, 180 plus third quadrant, 360 minus fourth quadrant, 360 plus third quadrant. All right, let's stop there for now.